Hi everybody, thank you for joining me. I've had a few new subscribers lately, and one of you asked would I do a kind of short autobiography video to show everybody what's got me to this point on YouTube, and am I in a band, was I in a band, all that kind of stuff. But first of all, let's do the musical bit first. Hope you like that. As you may know, I'm up to Oban this weekend, so I might record this video in my Oban hotel room. So let's go for a drive first of all, around the back roads in this wee junior hot hatch. Let's go. Well, here I am in Oban, guys. Cheers, folks. So, born in 1969. I grew up with music all around me because, of course, you know my dad's a player. Sorry, Mum, I never mentioned you on the channel much. As you know, I love you dearly, but I'll talk a lot about Dad just because of the shared interest, of course. So you might have seen my dad on the channel a few times. Go check out his guitar collection on YouTube. So I grew up with this guitars all around me, and he was in bands or he'd have a solo gig in a pub and he was always learning songs, so I was always familiar with tape recorders being stop, rewound, play, learning chords, that sort of thing around me as a young child. At the age of 10, maybe, my dad showed me a few chords, probably the classic E, A and B7 thing, and he showed a couple of mates. I think it was my mate David Watt and Cameron Black from across the road, and he showed us a few chords, and then a year or two later I think we were still palling about, so I think he showed us all, or I got him to help me with the solo to Parisian Walkways, so I think that was my first kind of attempt at a lead line. But that's where it started, because as we all three of us tried to cobble it together, I had this natural, I felt I was better than them in terms of what was coming out of my guitar compared to them, and suddenly that ignited something in me. Maybe it was the born show off, I don't know. I'm a Leo, my mum would say, therefore I've got this almost like a gene in me that wants to show off, hopefully in a nice way, but very much a show off. And I was bad at sports at school, so I could never show off like that. So finally I'd got something, I thought, I'm good at this, I'm naturally good at this. So I very much believe in, you know, the nature nurture thing. I think certain people have a nature for certain things. So I was naturally had an ability with guitar, and that seemed to start it off. So I was learning a few more things, probably Shadows things, Apache, things like that, but I was getting good. Then of course it developed, maybe age 13, 14, I was just experimenting with hammer-ons and pull-offs and bending strings, and then it became a bit of a family joke where my dad would say, enough of that Georgie Best stuff. Georgie Best being, of course, the amazing footballer, and that was my dad's way of saying, come on, learn your chords, do that sort of thing. In a nice way, of course, and so we'd make this joke that I was doing all the Georgie Best stuff, because my dad was never attracted to that in himself. He learned chords, he loved the Beatles, he wanted to be a Beatle. So that's where it started. I started to go in a slightly different direction that involved showing off. Trills, hammer-ons, pick scrapes, whatever it was. I just found it incredibly interesting, and I didn't really care about chords. And my dad was great at that. He didn't force me to learn chords. It was just the guitars were there on the wall. I could pick one up whenever I wanted to, as long as I wiped them down. My dad's a bit of a neat freak. I'm sure he won't mind me saying that. So I'd be getting chastised if I didn't wipe his guitars down with a nice fresh duster. Then of course, 13, 14, I'm listening to Martin Knopfler, Dire Straits, more Gary Moore, the Beano album, Eric Clapton, Carlos Santana, and so those are my guys. And then my dad, listen to this Telecaster player, who's this Roy Buchanan? And suddenly Arlen Roth was a huge one for me, the American guitar teacher. Never really made it to his own hero status, but to me he was a hero. He was one of the first to bring out, probably the first, to put educational VHS videotapes out and audio tapes where he would actually break it down what he was doing. So he still is teaching in America. He was a huge one for me. But yeah, Roy Buchanan, what's the Irish boy, what's his name? Rory Gallagher, all of this stuff. And I was learning all this stuff, and oh man, absolutely brilliant. Loved it all, still do. And how could I forget Albert Lee? Oh man, Jerry Donahue. So all these players were coming into my life, and I was learning all their like stealing what I could. Remember, this was back in the day when you didn't have YouTube. It was all rewind, play, stop chewing up tapes. Tab, what's tab? It was all just using my ear, really developing my ear. That's why I loved Arlen Roth so much, because when he did bring out the tapes, I had already been listening to his records, and when he put it on tape and said, my hand's here on the 5th fret, you could also do, and everything he said, I thought, so's my hand there. That's where I was positioning that. And I position it here because I get this click from my pick. So do I. And it suddenly started to, I thought, wow, I'm on the right track, because Arlen Roth's validating why I'm playing it there and not there. And I'd learned things from him that I thought, I bet he's playing it up there and not down there because of this sound and that sound. And then he would go and validate it all when I finally got my hands on the TDK tape. So again, I'm leaps and bounds ahead of my mates. I'm thinking, I've got something here. And of course, I wanted to be a hero. I wanted Paul Cook to be the next great thing. But this is where it all went kind of funny. I don't think I was destined for that. I do believe in fate. Martin Knopfler ate beans on toast, lived with his mates. I don't want to live with nobody. Fame, I'd rather live alone than live with my mates and get fame. I'm not like that. So when you see the journeys that real heroes take, not only have they got more talent than I have, but they are willing to eat jam sandwiches for years and go down to London, be away from their family, and really embrace it 100%. I was never a 100% guy with that. I'm a homebody. I'd have missed my mum. So the nearest I ever got was joining a band. And when I say joining a band, I really mean my dad and I forming a band that initially was just the two of us, that then expanded to the four of us. Again, I don't even know if I would have had the gumption to get up and knock on doors and be part of a stranger's band. I'm very much, I don't know if I was too shy for that, and yet I knew I had this ability and I wanted to show off. At the same time, I don't know, because when my dad said, right, why don't we do it? So we formed a little two-piece. We played a few gigs, and in fact, here's a wee bit of our little two-piece way back in the day. And so that gave me confidence, just to see people's reactions and to think, oh, I can do this. And it is, I didn't know if I was going to be the kind of guy that would get stage struck. Turns out it was the opposite, because that shy guy you just saw on stage became the guy I'm going to show you in a minute. I just grew and grew and grew, and our band grew. We became a four-piece, and we did lots of country gigs, just on the sort of country circuit within Scotland, and would go to different places in Scotland playing country music that was, and because of our singer guy, Davy Reese, he was a rocky type, so a bit like what Felder and Walsh did to the Eagles. We dragged, or he and I maybe dragged it in a certain direction. My dad would take, and the four of us are all maybe taking it in slightly different directions, as any band does. But we got rockier and rockier and less country and less country. And so Davy Reese, John Nicol, great sort of drummer with jazz influence, my dad on bass and lead vocal. Davy was also lead vocal. I was a crap singer, as you can hear. I would do harmonies where I could. But it allowed me to grow in this safe environment of my dad and his two mates from the 60s. That was our band, and me. And so I was the young guy, and the drummer, John, had the foresight to, much to Davy's disgust, said, look, the wee girlies are looking at Paul and the guitar players are looking at Paul. Why is Paul over at the side? Why don't we drag Paul in the middle? And he can become who he's going to be. And what a great, imagine your bandmates doing that for you. And I was just a wee punk. And yet, because of these mature men around me, they were able to be egoless. And even Davy, who probably did it with gritted teeth, because he's a real show-off too, they pushed me to the front. Do you want to play Hotel California? Yes, Hotel California. And then suddenly all my tracks start coming in, Sultans of Swing, and it became a wonderful, wonderful period of my life playing stuff. For example, here's a wee clip of who I became in that band. Just still a covers band, but this was me, fond memories of this type of clip. And every time we had a gig, this was always my favourite moment, coming into the solo of Hotel California. I would love to play it, but we'll get copyrighted, so I've dimmed the volume. And so that was yours truly on stage, just loving it. I still remember the feeling of going in and tuning up and looking across and seeing a couple of guys already looking at me, thinking, I wonder if they've, how full of ego am I to think, I wonder if they've already seen me and maybe they're waiting. And I was full of it, absolutely full of it. You wouldn't like me back then. Maybe you don't like me now. But I would be so exciting, and then of course a couple of wee girlies at the bar, and oh, this is going to be good. And just that first launching into a solo was just great. But I think at that point, even that image you saw a minute ago of me with my Les Paul, I think I knew at that point I was not willing and maybe not talented enough to go all the way. That's why you've never heard of me before, because after 15 years of being in the band, bands break up. How can four of you live as close like a marriage with four people? It has to break at some point. And so it did all break up around about the time that my son was born, and I had other things to do and all that kind of stuff. And I've never been in a band since. And then when YouTube came along in 2017, when I started the YouTube channel, it was wonderful to suddenly get that feeling again when people think, I'm good, I've had a nice comment to say I'm good, and and now it's become its own thing. And that I do believe in fate, and I'm never going to be famous, and I'm very comfortable with that. I didn't think I'd have more than 100 subscribers, but thanks to you guys, I do have more than 100 subscribers. And I wake up in the morning to some lovely comments saying that I'm a good teacher of guitar, and maybe that's because I don't bash on about theory, because I don't really know much theory, as you know. I'm not theory led. Any theory I know is because I need to talk about the music, and it's a language to talk about it. But I only know the Nashville number system. That's really all I know, and a whole bunch of chords. So, and I don't know if I can be bothered joining a band ever again, but I really miss that feeling. But I'm very much happy in my little life. I'm looking forward to retirement. I keep myself as healthy as I can, and I could get diagnosed with a horrible disease tomorrow that could just change everything, or I could get hit by the proverbial bus. But I'm very into mindfulness, and I'm very into gratitude. I meditate, which is when you do it at night and you're a bit, I meditate, and I'm just very aware of being thankful for what I've got. I've got a wonderful wife, wonderful son, wonderful mum and dad, and so I'm just very grateful. And I don't have the desire to go and eat jam sandwiches like Martin Offler in a bedsit with his four mates who smell the BO. So that's that. In terms of, do I have any music on the streaming services? No. I would maybe like to do that one day, but I'm just going to go with the flow. I'm not a salmon who swims upstream. I'm just going to go with the flow. If I find myself in a little studio and I've got the money to spend the time on studio time, then I'll maybe do it. But I don't have any music on Spotify. We made a little CD, a Rooster CD, but we never really sold any. It's a very eclectic mix of all four of us put their input into it, but it's not a cohesive thing. So you listen to it and think, this is all over the place in terms of musical influence. So I don't really have anything available. The nearest I've got to listening to stuff that I've done is probably going onto my Instagram page, where I cut out any music I've done on YouTube. I cut out all the talking stuff, and it's just track after track after track. So you could just scroll if you want through my Insta page, and you'll just get track after track after track of all the things that you've heard on my channel. So that's that. Sorry, I'm just trying to sit where there's some light here in this hotel room. Anyway, to finish the video, my actual reality then is being a driving instructor. Worked in an office for a good 24 and a bit years, and then became a driving instructor. Have been since about 2008. And at any given moment of a working day, I'm sitting here in the passenger seat, and I'm constantly keeping them away for curbs. Oh, I think I'm doing what I need to be doing. I think I'm quite natural at that. I'm just a one-man band. I'm not part of a big driver school. I'm just, cook driver training, and I do enjoy it. I mean, I'd rather not. I'd rather retire and play guitar. But yeah, people find their place in life, and I think that's my place. I should be teaching people to drive, and I can't wait till it's over. Right, I'm going to wrap this up now because I'm losing the light, so I'm just chasing it around the room here. So I'm going to go out now for a couple of glasses of wine in some pub in Oban. I have no idea which one. I'll go for a walk now, and I'll probably end the evening via the local chippy for a fish supper.
Cheers, folks.